Hello, everyone. Today we'll talk about leadership in adversity management. So, during emergency, how does one person takes charge and steers away the whole community, perhaps groups or the people affected into safety? That is what we. Now, what is crisis? Let us understand what exactly is crisis all about it. It is an emotionally charged sentiment where people get swept away, out of fear, out of frustration, out of the fact that they are not able to help themselves or their fellows uh, because of the radical change in the situation. That's the significant event that we are talking about. It that is the crisis. It is also the unstable or a crucial time of affair which you need to take concise decision and direct with a decision with a definite direction, and that is what we are looking forward to. It is a situation with a distinct possibility of a highly desirable outcome. Desirable in the sense taking yourself, making yourself into a safety environment, ensuring everybody who are affected into a safe and hospitable environment as such. So it's a situation which reaches a critical phase where you are not able to cope up with. So that is what we are talking about crisis. And now let us understand what are the realities. A prompt action reduce a lot of damages, collateral damages. Yes, if you delay your actions, probably your damages are going to incur and go on a higher end. Prompt actions reduces the length of crisis. It shortens the crisis period altogether. It is your decision and definitely decision to mitigate those crises. Focus on the responses and not on the threat, because threats is looming altogether and probably you are not able to cope up with the threat as of that point. So at that point of time, it is all only on your responses about ensuring that everybody is safe. Probably because you're in a very stiff, stressful situation, you're not able to conceive every possible situations or possible options available to you. So that is where the important decision is all to be taken, and this is where leadership abilities comes. Now, decisions are always supposed to make build on site, location, and unique set of circumstances. Probably you are in a desert and there's a looming crisis. Probably you are in a frigid conditions, cold conditions, and you have a crisis at your hand. So you see, the site, location, place matters a lot. You need to understand. It is which determines the directions or the option that you choose for. Cardiac assessment is the intuitions. It's a gut feeling that plays a role. Tends to victims need immediately to ensure that who are supposedly on a priority list or who can be saved in a maximum possible fashion or maximum possible number. How many can be saved? So be prepared. Be prepared for any kind of eventualities. Eventualities, as in the worst thing that might happen. In that case, what you're going to do around it, and keep on reviewing your decisions, keep on enacting and upgrading, or probably exploring other alternatives all around it. The very first hour of crisis is basically we believe that nothing is going to happen to me. That is what happens around here, and this is what we are looking into it. The first instance is of denial, the second is of anger. How can it happen to me? How could this have happened? Then it is the panic button that it goes around it. What can I do? The anxiety sets in. So element of crisis management is what we're talking about. It is the leadership. How does one steer away from a crisis situation? What are the framework for actions? How do you believe in a situation? How do you ensure that your end objective or desired objective has been met? And that is what the crisis management or CMP is all about. It provides structure, it provides mechanism for an operational responses. Crisis responses, it can be your school, your community, your local people, or government, perhaps the communication, as in how do you plan for your crisis, how do you implement the evacuation plan, the management, the recovery effect, and how so that it can be mitigated. That's the part that goes around it. That one of the things that can be done about crisis management is, can we do it in advance? Can we train ourselves for any sort of eventualities? Your knowledge, your know-how is very crucial to your mitigation of crisis situation. That is what we're talking about, maintaining preparedness. district-wide scenarios, local scenarios, provincial scenarios, what can be happening? Are you in a disaster-prone area in cases of flood, in cases of earthquake? Probably you need to build certain hypothetical situation until and actually that situation arrives. So on that hypothetical situation, plan your course of action. Newer emerging scenarios, probably yes, we just evolved from COVID-19 pandemic. That is what we look into it. Yes, there is a militancy attacks every now and then, everywhere. First and foremost is ensure safety. Establish a predetermined action plan, focus on the response and not on the sources of crisis, not on the crisis, but how you will be reacting to the crisis. That is should be the most important part of it. Identify trained emergency responsible responders, as in the hospital people, as in the firefighting people, as in the government people with the resources, as in anything, the food supply people. What do you want to go around it? Minimize the damage and the loss of facilities. Believe it or not, it is your responsibility to provide ongoing support for any employees, any staff, any student, anybody within the community. So emergency planning should incorporate the best thinking, the best practices of all responding agencies. If possible, form partnerships well ahead of time. Don't wait for the crisis to occur. So you should have the relevant phone numbers. You should always build in certain practice mock situation, what you're going to go around it, so that it is easier for you to return to the normal. Outline the steps to practice, rehearse for a crisis, which I have been trying to tell it to you. That hypothetical situation, the situation which you think is going to happen, the worst possible situation, and how do you act to mitigate it? What are the steps that needs to be taken care for? Include everyone in your planning, and that is what we should be going around. So first and foremost is prevention and intervention if possible. So take steps so that such events do not occur. For example, you are a resident in earthquake prone areas, right? So you have to build structures, building which is earthquake resistant, so that is prevention step that reduces a lot of life from getting destroyed and probably from getting extinguished altogether. So that needs to be understood. So it can be an earthquake prone resistant, you are planning it ahead. So that is what prevention is all about it. Then there is something called preparedness. It's the process of planning, the rapid action force, the coordinated effect in cases of unwarranted situation, how the whole community is going to react it. Response are the action steps to be taken during the crisis. Recovery is restoring the techniques, learning the environment after a crisis, after your mental health recovery, and that is what we look forward to. Remember, the golden hour is the first hour. Take that lead. Delay is denial. Any delay in your response is denial of that crisis is actually happening. The golden hour is the first hour that you're going to go. The prompt action is most importantly required. So wave of response, it can be your medical forces, it can be your police forces, it can be a government, it can be just the media fellows who can help you to sensitize the public in averting such kind of disasters. It can be the community, it can be looky looks or the walkers who were just watching, if as if it's a tourism thing, is a situation of interest perhaps. But that is first 24 hours is most important. The first hour is important, the first 24 hours is important for the whole of the community to mitigate that disaster. Duration of the disaster is very important. That is what, if an earthquake goes happens and it happens on a regular interval, let's say there is a burst of 8 or 9 times the earthquake at this on a Richter scale of 7, 8, 9, 8 times within 24 or 48 hours. So that becomes a duration, it's a longer duration. It takes a lot of effort for rebuilding the community, for rebuilding the society, as the case might be. So the key question that we need to answer is, what can or will be able to handle what? Remember, which roles can be delegated to volunteers? Where will we get help from? Is it the firefighting, emergency supplies? Is it the hospitals? Is it the police? Is it the government? And fixing responsibilities, as in who will do that? I hope these are the major four questions that is very important for you to answer. If you can answer this four question, probably you have almost there to understand or come to an answer of what needs to be done during crisis. If there are any other questions, probably you need to understand based on the situation or the location of the crisis. The we first and foremost thing, we can have a command center, the incident command centers for crisis management. The command center is going to communicate, collate, and probably distribute all kind of communication. Ensure that everything is in streamline. Ensure that there is an optimal uses of resources. We have the responsibilities, the roles, as in who is organization, the who is the spokesperson, who are the volunteers. Then we talk about the equipment, the food, the media area, and the so on and so forth. The incident command system should be establishing a common organizational structure, as in the flow of information and how does the information get streamlined. Places one person in charge of decision making, creates a chain of command, provides for quick, effective performances, establish a reasonable span of control, provides an effective coordination, transitions of responsibility, probably even of authority or crisis responders. Now, this is what we call as the major commander that comes around here. If you look into the incident commander crisis coordinator at the top, here every information comes in. Now we have the liaison of officer, person of interest, probably who are actually the community head, and so on, so forth. The first coordinator, and everybody has been mentioned out here. Remember, for any crisis, communication is the only way to mitigate any kind of rumors, ensuring proper delivery of help altogether, resources, distribution of resources. So, communication is the foundation of any crisis planning, crisis implementation management, recovery effort. It is only communication that is going to go around and help you too. Now that is what the communication directors or even the incident command center is going to go around here. You have those directors, you have those media managers, you have the internal communications, you have the feedback, the reports that comes in out, and how do you streamline. You have the resources that is on the way, and how do you streamline, allocate where all resources is required at what kind of time, prioritize everything, and that can only be done in the communication command center. So we have a crisis communication team leader, perhaps the spokesperson, the communication center coordinator, the internal communication manager, the external communication manager, the media manager, you name it, and we have it. We can have even the social media manager who is going to make sure that everything is placed, the right factual things have been there in the net. So we have those liaison officers and the volunteers definitely. So what roles can be delegated to volunteers? Probably the first hand thing wherein they can actually help it out. They are the volunteers are the people in action you can actually see. Establish schedule for the volunteers, as in when, where, how many volunteers are required. Welcome volunteers each day. Give them a proper brief introduction as what is expected of them. So the basic information will help them to mitigate and probably coordinate their efforts to an requisite solution. Provide name tags, security cards. Volunteers should keep a record of calls, as in whatever calls are happening, whatever they are seeing, whatever they are relaying back to the command center. Prepare of a list of what to donate and how to donate. Screen, record, and organize contributions. Now, the communication focus should have a command center functions. Communication should be done internally. Everybody should be on a same platform. Everybody should know what exactly is happening. Anticipate and meet the needs of media. Ensure key messages are understandable, honest, and consistent. Manage perception of competence and reality. Correct inaccurate, misleading information fast. Stay in contact with the victim's family. Information gathering is all about what you are seeing, what volunteers are seeing, what volunteers are hearing. You need to collect them, and the feedback has to be generated, has to be collated somewhere, some point of time. So inaccurate information creates leads to a new crisis. So try to verify all your information. Central location means better understanding, better uh, deliberations of the situation, better dissection of the information. So plan for the Murphy's laws and make quickly. Whatever you do it, debrief it and ensure that the communication channel is completely open, transparent, and at the same time, this is happening with the resource allocations too. Key audiences are probably all the community centers that we're talking about it, the crisis response agencies, the staff, the faculties, the anything that goes around it, the opinion leaders, the parents, the student, the legal counsel. What can I say? You can say the truth, nothing but the truth. Don't share what you don't know, because what if you share something that you are not very confident of it, it leads to a rumor peddling. Now that is what we need to avoid out. Never ever speculate. Do not hide factual informations. Not talking about a crisis won't take back what has actually happened, and that is unnatural. So rely on communication expert at every point of time. Speed of communication, first impressions are lasting impressions. Factual content of the message, get it right, repeat it, probably share it with others. Trust and credibility is crucial to sustain the support during and after a crisis. Now, this is what we are talking about it. Create trust, create visibility, create transparency. That will only lead to credibility during the crisis, after this crisis. So elements are empathy, caring, competence, expertising. Simply said, walk the talk. Whatever you have stated, please ensure that you are doing the same thing. The new communication model that have eventually arrived is the email broadcast, text or voice messaging, website, rapid alert notification system, hotlines, emergency voice bulletin board, social media networks, blog, IMs are instant messagings, MySpace, Facebook, and so on and so forth. In terms of crisis, what the leadership has to do around it, the staff or the community may go public to defend their reputation. Media will put a full court press on the on those who are in the know or in the focus. Remember, develop process of support site, counsel as early as possible. Needed grows the longer crisis is prominent. Nurture staff, and that is how we are going to go across this community wise. Use opinion leader, key opinion leaders who are there to broadcast your messages to ensure that everybody understand. You might be expert in managing a crisis, but people might not validate your opinions at that point of time. So you require the key opinion leaders of the community who they understand and probably who they are very conversant with. So this is where you need to understand. Consider community meeting, reassure safety, security steps, express concerns for victim, and regret for crisis. Don't, and should I say never take the blame, because crisis is something which we all want to avoid, and nobody is interested to bring on crisis altogether. Communicating in crisis is all audiences. Determine most useful vehicles. Daily info sheets keep key audiences current. Establish 24-hour taped hotline. Essential to develop key messages. Stay on message. Share messages to everyone. Establish time, place to speak with media. The next 10 to 12 hours is where the reporters are on the scene. Ensure that the medias are on the scene and they are actually reporting as it is happening. Grab anyone who will talk, answer questions, what happened, get the factual information. Result is incomplete, and there might be conflicting stories that might emerge around it. But this will only lead to pinpointing of the fact that how the disaster happened, how that crisis happened. So media can interfere with police and the rescue. Next, from 12 to 24 hours, try to answer and probably fix role, as in who is going to help and who is going to divert the resources and who is going to do what kind of crisis management. Authorities usually notify the next of kin, as in if there are any casualties, perhaps before information is released to the media. Definitely that is most important, because this is a private thing, and probably some negative news is not entertained or probably is not accepted by every one of us. So before releasing to the media, ensure that the privacy of the family is taken into consideration. These efforts causes conflict with media doing whatever is necessary to find out about the victims. From one day to the next 1.5 days, from 24 hours to 36 hours, focus on the question: why did the crisis happen? Why did the disaster happen? What could have been done? If it is natural reaction, how can we mitigate such thing? If we cannot mitigate, if it is eventually going to happen, can we develop a early warning system? So many theories are there, possibly fact. You need to understand those things. Probably ensure what are the best practices which is happening around the globe. Try to find it out. This is from what happens uh, from 36 hours to 72 hours altogether. Now, that is three days, from 1.5 days to 3 days, what happens? The media should bring in the analysis part of it, their story, their understanding, their interpretation. There might be a new spin altogether put together, but this will only help you to churn out the facts, nothing else. Spin-off stories takes a life of their own. Importance is on staying on the message. That is very critical. Funeral, memorials take place, offering window to regroup and probably recharge the crisis team. Now, allow me to give you two strategies for media relation. Number one is help heal and return to normalcy. Try to bring in the success stories as who have returned to normalcy at the fastest possible time. How did they go around it? What can be done? Strategy number two is stay on the message, be clear and be focused upon it, because this is what has happened and this is how we are going to help it out. It is a slow and steady method. So media is the fastest way to communicate broadly. The triage of media is no favoritism. Focus on local first. Brief daily. Never say no comments. Respond to every reasonable media needs. Develop guidelines to access. Set ground rules for interviews and media personnel. Next is the physical recovery. How do we go around it? If it is a building that has been destroyed or there is something wrong with the building, try to build it up. We have to have mental health triage if PTSDs, post-traumatic stress disorder, if how we want to go around it. Information systems that needs to be taken around it. Communication has to be transparent and uniform always. Memorial is the event's anniversary that moves around it. So basic key takeaways is the leadership test, as in who defines or who takes in charge during crisis. Is he or she quite credible or not? The communication test is the one focus that needs to be maintained across throughout the crisis. Perhaps professional test is how do you emerge as a key advisor. With this, I come to a culmination of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the end.